I got to get some stories from the set. 40 years ago, at the time, give me your favorite story, whether it involves Rodney Dangerfield or Ted Knight, who I think is a comic genius. Anything that was ad-libbed with Chevy Chase, Bill Murray, obviously. Give me your favorite story.
You know, Bill was just taking off. He had just booked Saturday Night Live. Meatballs was in the can. It wasn't even out yet. It was only his second film. None of his dialogue was written. So when he showed up and he did that Cinderella story about winning the Masters, or looping for the Dalai Lama, they wrote that. He wrote it with Harold's kind of, help editing right there on the spot. So his genius was evident even back then. Chevy had already done Fletch, which I loved, and I also saw him do National Lampoon's Lemmings down in the West Village when I was a kid, which was an amazing knockoff of Woodstock that National Lampoon did. Ted, like you, I was a huge fan of his from Mary Tyler Moore, and Rodney Dangerfield was my dad's favorite comedian. We used to watch him on Ed Sullivan. First day on the set, I go and I say hi to Rodney, and I smile and say hello, and he goes, "Oh, kid, your teeth are terrible. My nephew's a dentist. Maybe I can set you up with him. He can help you out." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks, Rodney. That's great. Let's go on camera together." So he kind of reads me, and he goes, "Don't worry about it." He goes, "Florida, huh? It's like a sauna with gnats."
Always on.
Always on. Did anything else ad-libbed from you or from?
That famous. Do you do drugs, Danny, every day? That was that's made it onto a few T-shirts. That was definitely an ad-lib.
Okay.
Most of Chevy's, like when Chevy did that knockoff of the $6 Million Man sound when he was making all those putts.
Yep.
I didn't even know what he was going to do until he started doing it. So I just, it was all I could do to keep a straight face. And the great thing on that film was watching Harold and Ramis, our director, and Doug Kenny realize that in Chevy and Bill and Ted and Rodney, they had a kind of modern Marx Brothers thing going on, which of course made me Geppo Marx, the unfunny, one that could help with the bags. So they just, rocked that thing as far as they could, and that's why we have the film we have. They threw out the script about 9 or 10 days into the shooting, and then they just let these guys really just roll. And Harold was really, really adept at kind of wrangling them into a shape that would work. And, 40 years later, we've got what we've got.
What do you mean they threw out the script? They just said, obviously keeping the spine of it, but, again, the scene with you and Ted Knight, where he's trying to ask if you stand for goodness or badness. I mean, that's one of my favorite scenes involving you in this film, Michael. I mean, you're laughing about it now 40 years later. How did you keep a straight face when he's asking you, about mow my lawn and making that noise and stuff like that?
I used to keep a safety pin in my pocket, and if I thought I was going to laugh, I'd pop it and stab myself in the thigh.
Are you serious?
Of course not, but that sounds good, doesn't it?
It sounds great.
I'm gullible when it comes to this sort of stuff. But I mean,
well, and the other great thing about the Wingfoot, is that I trained for the film there. I went back there and trained with Joe Neaporti and Tom Neaporti, his dad, and I was out on the range every day for 6 weeks. And one of the things I wanted to mention on your show is there's a great GoFundMe page called Richie's Gift, which is the thing that's set up to support the caddies during the pandemic at Wingfoot, because like everybody else, they've been suffering and out of work, and now that the Open's there, none of the members are taking the local caddies out. So anybody who wants to contribute can go to that GoFundMe page, Richie's Gift, and just throw a couple of bucks their way, and I'm sure they'd appreciate it.
Richie's Gift at GoFundMe. I mean, that is obviously a worthy visit to GoFundMe to make sure that put a little bit extra scratch in these guys' pockets. Michael, thanks for the call, and it was just great seeing you. How old is that Bushwood Country Club hat that you got on your lid?
Well, it's not 40 years old. My brother lost the original, I think, in a bar in North Carolina.
Come on.
In 1979. I'm sure if that ever surfaced, we could have an auction for that.
Come on.
But I want to tell you, man, I have a new respect for the professional caddies out there, because there's not one part of my body that's not sore except my teeth.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.